Hours after launching airstrikes that Gaza health officials say killed 104 Palestinians, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that the ceasefire with Hamas is back on. President Trump said he thought the strike was justified after a sniper killed an Israeli soldier in Gaza, but emphasized that, quote, nothing is going to jeopardize the ceasefire. He followed that up with another threat to Hamas, which refuses to disarm or give up control of Gaza.
You have to understand, Hamas is a very small part of peace in the Middle East, and they have to behave. They're on the rough side, but they said they would be good, and if they're good, they're going to be happy, and if they're not good, they're going to be terminated. Their lives will be terminated.
We should note Hamas denies involvement with the shooting of the soldier or violating the ceasefire at any point. This test of the truce, the deadliest since the ceasefire went into effect, comes amid a furor in Israel over the return of hostage remains that the Red Cross says was staged by Hamas. Joining us now, Ned Price, a former senior State Department and CIA official. It's good to see you, Ned. So Israel was able to launch these massive strikes on Gaza, and then they said basically, all right, ceasefire's back on. For now, Trump's backing them. Does that give Netanyahu leeway just to break the peace at will?
Chris, that's the question. I think in all of this, we have to remember the dynamic at play. We have these two belligerents, neither of whom were all that eager to end this war in the first place. Hamas did not and still does not want to disarm and to disband. And the Israeli prime minister, perhaps more than anything, wished to keep his far-right coalition together, while also, importantly to him, of course, staying out of prison, which incentivized him to resist signing the ceasefire in the first place, and perhaps incentivizes him to continue jeopardizing it now. So, look, that's the backdrop. It's pretty clear that Hamas violated the ceasefire in at least one way by, as you referred to, staging the return of these hostage remains. Israel, as you said, also claimed that an IDF convoy came under fire. But the last time this happened, even the Trump administration said this wasn't a Hamas attack. Hamas may have had nothing to do with it, and its leadership was unwitting. We just don't know. But here's what we do know, Chris, to your question. The response we've seen from Israel thus far is in no way proportionate, killing dozens, including scores of women and children as a result of what we've seen over the past day or so just isn't an acceptable response. They need to hear that from the international community. Most importantly, they need to hear that from the Trump administration. And if this formula continues, disproportionate response in response to violations of the ceasefire, it will be a ceasefire in name only, unfortunately.
So the vice president, J.D. Vance, described what happened in Gaza as little skirmishes here and there. So if that doesn't constitute a violation of the ceasefire, if the deaths of more than 100 people in airstrikes don't, how do we know when the ceasefire has been breached?
Yeah, look, Chris, I would not call this little skirmishes. When scores of women and children, according to multiple accounts, are killed, this is not a little skirmish. And look, ceasefires rarely stick once and for all. In most cases, you are going to see some form of violations. Really, the question is, can the two sides, with help from the international community and perhaps most importantly from the Trump administration and our Arab partners, Qatar, Egypt, and others, can they work with Hamas to see to it that when these skirmishes take place, that the ceasefire holds once again? I think the challenge we're seeing now is that, contrary to what the Trump administration did to get this ceasefire across the line, namely putting pressure on both sides, but certainly on Prime Minister Netanyahu himself as our Arab partners put pressure on Hamas, we're just not seeing that pressure on both sides. We're seeing the continued pressure on Hamas. But if Bibi is able to break the ceasefire in this disproportionate way, time and again, I'm afraid it's going to fray and ultimately give way to war once again.
We only have about a minute left, but I do want to ask you about the footage that the IDF released that they say shows Hamas burying a body and then digging it up in front of Red Cross observers as if they were discovering the remains of one of the hostages that they promised to return. Netanyahu's office says those partial remains did belong to a hostage, but his other remains were uncovered previously, so not a new a body to be returned. And hostage families, this is horrible for them. They're furious. What impact do you think this might have on peace talks?
Well, they're furious and rightly so, because this was a clear violation on the part of the ceasefire by Hamas. Even the Red Cross, a neutral arbiter in all of this, has said so. The response, to my mind, Chris, should not be going after targets that involve or jeopardize or actually kill, in this case, women and children. The response should be to continue to put pressure on Hamas by our Arab partners, namely Egypt, Qatar, Turkey as well, and perhaps in some cases asking those countries to do more to work with Hamas to help uncover the remains of these hostages. I know Egypt has already contributed resources to this, but these hostage bodies need to come home. Hamas needs to stop playing games, and our Arab partners need to continue to step up to help them see that outcome achieved.
Ned Price, thank you so much. Always good to see you.